Mangwana ni mwalelepo fukenja ni klekwas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. Later in the show, we will be joined by Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report. But prior to that, these are some of the stories that we'll be looking at on Africa Good Morning, the 30th of July, 2026. Nation Media Group resumes Uganda operations after shutdown. South African and Russian armies agree to deepen cooperation. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye arrives in Mali for talks with the junta leader. Idi Amin's grandson targets Commonwealth boxing medal for Uganda. And Ghana mourns the death of its tallest man, Sulemana Abdul Samed. And as you know, currently the biggest tournament in the world is the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, currently taking place in Rabat, Morocco. And these are the latest WAFCON results. Ghana showing a good pace there and consistency as they defeat Cape Verde, refusing to suffer the shock results that Nigeria suffered yesterday. Now Cameroon getting the best of Mali in a nail-biter there, but Cameroon and Ghana still showing their dominance on the African stage. This is Africa Good Morning with Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
All right, let's get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. Nation Media Group says it has resumed operations in Uganda after being ordered to shut down in late June by Uganda's military chief Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of President Yoweri Museveni. The Kenya-based media company reopened its newspapers, television channels and radio stations following talks between its majority shareholder, Tanzanian businessman Rostam Aziz, and Kainerugaba. Aziz thanked President Museveni for the decision and expressed gratitude to Kainerugaba for his support throughout the engagement that led to the outcome, without explaining why the government reversed its earlier decision. Military spokesperson Chris Magezi did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Kainerugaba had ordered the closure of the group's Ugandan operations, including the Daily Monitor newspaper and NTV Uganda, without giving a reason. The move heightened international concern about restrictions on media freedom and dissent in Uganda, where Museveni has ruled for 4 decades. Kainerugaba is seen as a potential successor to his father and is known for provocative social media posts. Now, Lieutenant General Lawrence Mbata, the chief of the South African Army, held talks with Russian counterparts during an official visit to Moscow that resulted in an agreement to strengthen cooperation between the land forces of the two countries. Mbata, making his second official visit to Russia, formed part of a military delegation that will also visit military academies and defense companies after meetings in the Russian capital. Russia's defense ministry said the discussions covered joint projects at the general headquarters aimed at enhancing the combat readiness of both armies. It added that agreements had been reached on further strengthening cooperation between the land forces in various areas. South Africa has maintained a non-aligned stance on the conflict in Ukraine, while preserving strong ties with Moscow as a fellow member of the BRICS group of emerging economies. During the visit, Mbata paid his respects at Moscow's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier before meeting Russian Colonel General Alexander Matovnikov. Now, Senegalese President Bassirou Faye has arrived in Mali for an official visit and discussions with the head of the country's military junta, Assimi Goïta. The two leaders are expected to discuss the security situation, military cooperation, and freight transport between their countries. Mali imports a significant portion of its goods through the port of Dakar, but transport has been disrupted for several months because of jihadist attacks. Earlier this year, Mali's authorities announced a partnership with the armed forces of Niger and Burkina Faso to launch airstrikes against jihadists. The discussions come as both countries continue to address security and transport challenges affecting the movement of goods. Assimi Goïta has ruled Mali since 2021 after taking power in a military coup. The visit places emphasis on issues affecting regional cooperation, including trade routes and military coordination. Freight transport through Dakar remains important for Mali, making the discussions particularly relevant as both sides seek to address the impact of continued attacks. Security cooperation is also expected to feature prominently during the official talks between President Faye and Goïta in Bamako. Now, Aziz Abdul, the grandson of the former Ugandan military ruler Idi Amin, is competing in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow as a super heavyweight boxer representing Uganda. Abdul never met his grandfather, who died in exile when he was a toddler. Idi Amin took power in a 1971 coup, ruled Uganda for 8 years, and was associated with the deaths of an estimated 500,000 people and the expulsion of the country's Asian population. Now Abdul faces England's Damar Thomas in the quarterfinals of the 90-plus kilogram category, with victory guaranteeing at least bronze and making him Uganda's first Commonwealth boxing medalist since Auckland in 1990. Now, Idi Amin had a fascination with Scotland, wore kilts, played the bagpipes, and declared himself King of Scotland in 1976. Abdul said it was possible he could become the new King of Scotland. However, he declined to discuss his grandfather's reputation in detail, saying he wanted to be recognized as a Ringo, the boxer, and hoped to win a gold medal for Uganda at the Games in Glasgow. Now let's talk about Ghana's tallest man, who has sadly passed away. The death of Sulemana Abdul Samed, recognized as Ghana's tallest man, has prompted widespread grief, particularly in the north of the country, where he had become a well-known local figure. The 33-year-old died in hospital in Tamale after sores on his legs became infected. A relative, Sulemana Abdul Kudus, described him as generous and kind and said many people continued visiting the family to learn what had happened. Diagnosed with gigantism in his 20s, he measured 7 feet 4 inches when the BBC measured him in 2022 and was believed to have grown even taller before his death. Known as Awuche, meaning let's go in Hausa, he lived with complications linked to Marfan syndrome. Ibrahim Mahama had offered to cover his medical expenses at Tamale Teaching Hospital. Kudus said the sores were likely a complication of his condition. Now, Awuche's height brought recognition to Gambaga, and he often identified himself with that village. He abandoned dreams of becoming a driver because of his condition, but maintained a positive outlook and enjoyed his status as a local celebrity. May he continue to rest in peace. Those have been the top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we will be joined by Mr. Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report.
Do you like traveling?
Do you like to experience new places?
Well, then you should tune into On the Rock, where we explore enjoy establishments all over Namibia and South Africa. Great food, great fun, and so much more. So be sure to mark your calendar as we explore the beautiful landscapes of Namibia at the various enjoy establishments.
And where we also get to go on game drives, different activities, and meet the awesome staff of the different establishments.
We will see you there. Watch On the Rocks every Monday at 9 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GOTV channel 25.
All right, now the South African National Treasury released 7.1 billion South African rands back to struggling municipalities. And also South Africa and Nigeria have agreed to de-escalate tensions between the two countries after high-level meetings in Abuja with regards to the immigration situation in South Africa. This is a story that we highlighted yesterday, but here's Arrie Hougaard with that current affairs.
Current news in South Africa, the National Treasury agreed to release 7.1 billion South African rand. It earlier withheld from non-complying municipalities in South Africa. So the Treasury received lots of criticism related to that, and the reason for the criticism is that the money is being released to 49 municipalities who continue to fail to comply. So that's a big challenge in South Africa at the moment. The reason for non-compliance are, some of the reasons are failure to pay service providers, so that's a big issue, and also failing to pay Eskom and water boards, and also for running unfunded budgets. And most seriously, the municipalities also made unauthorized, irregular and wasteful expenditure, which adds up to several billion South African rand. So the criticism came from economist Davie Rood, and he said that the government sent a message that local governments can fail at regulations and without consequences. So the Finance Minister, Minister Enoch Godongwana, he said that the release is important to continue service delivery, and said it's to protect the residents of South Africa as well. 21 municipalities received full equitable share, while 28 received partial disbursements. So Minister Godongwana said the municipalities are not off the hook, and they're required to perform over the next few months. Economists say that it's also possible that's a political move as well by the Treasury, and for municipalities not to collapse before the upcoming local municipalities, and that the elections for the municipalities will be in November this year. So non-payment of municipalities remain a big concern in South Africa, and the African municipalities currently owe electricity provider Eskom collectively 110 billion South African rand, and this is escalating annually. The Mpumalanga municipality owed Eskom 30 million rand on their own. Then also in current news, South Africa and Nigeria have agreed to de-escalate tensions between the two largest economies in Africa. And so the countries met in Abuja in Nigeria and announced a move to contain the diplomatic rift, and that was created over migration and also crime and disputed traditional leadership. So Africa is Africa's most industrialized economy, and Nigeria the most populous country in Africa. They're also the continent's top oil producer. So the two countries, important that the relationships stay strong between the two of them. South Africa's Minister of International Relations, that is Roland Lamola, said the South African government condemns xenophobia and also racism and discrimination. And South Africa earlier also confirmed that we will fight lawlessness in South Africa and also crime, and also strengthen border control. Lastly, in current news, opposition parties continue to put pressure on President Cyril Ramaphosa, and that's related to the Pala Pala report with the EFF and the African Transformation Movement, both of them filing papers to the Constitutional Court. That's to seek direct leave to appeal the majority judgment from the Western Cape High Court in favor of President Ramaphosa. So the High Court interdict the Section 89 Impeachment Committee from proceeding with its work pending on the outcome of President Ramaphosa's application to review their findings. So that's all happening in the courts. And so the EFF they argue that the interdict prevents Parliament from fulfilling its constitutional obligations, that is to determine if President Ramaphosa committed serious violations. And that's current news in South Africa.
All right, it's now time for us to talk about WAFCON football. Banyana, after suffering a defeat in their first game, are hoping to change their luck as they will be facing Ivory Coast this Friday. This is in Morocco. And of course, the Commonwealth Games continue in Glasgow.
In sport news in South Africa, we first go to soccer. It is Banyana, the South African women's soccer team that play in the WAFCON tournament. It's the Women's African Cup of Nations. They had a shocker defeat in their first round game against Ethiopia. They lost that game by 2-1. They now play Ivory Coast, a difficult game on Friday. That's at 7 p.m. Namibian time. And a tough game because Ivory Coast beat Burkina Faso by 4-1 in their first game. So important for South Africa to get on to winning ways again. Only the top 4 teams in the tournament will secure entry into the World Cup in Brazil for the next Women's World Cup. And South Africa next play after this game on Friday, also on Tuesday. They play on the 4th of August against Burkina Faso. Also, the Commonwealth Games continuing that is in Glasgow in Scotland, the 2026 Commonwealth Games. And South Africa had success in the swimming pool, many medals, and those most notably, it is Chad le Clos. He's an experienced swimmer. He won 2 medals at the Games already. He's up now to a total of 20 medals of all the tournaments or the games that he's been to. That equals the record of Australia's Emma McKinnon, also with 20 medals. Lots of athletics also over the weekend, and there's also over the weekend track cycling and boxing and netball and judo and bowls. That's all in the Commonwealth Games. Then also in sport in South Africa, there's a Currie Cup rugby continuing over the weekend. In Cape Town, the Stormers play the Sharks. The Lions host the Bulls in Johannesburg, and the Cheetahs play Griquas. And then up in Wellington is Boland playing against the Pumas. So all of that Currie Cup rugby coming up. And then the greatest rugby rivalry, the All Blacks coming to South Africa. The first game will be on the 7th of August. Big game in Cape Town against the Stormers. The first test, the 22nd of August. And they will play 4 tests, of which 3 is in South Africa and 1 in Baltimore in the USA. So that's all sport happening at the moment in South Africa.
All right, and now we close off the South African news with some entertainment as we visit the Boland town in Malmesbury, where we learn more about their strong agricultural and commercial impact in the Western Cape. And we also hear more from what Swartland Winery has to offer.
Entertainment news in South Africa. We go to the town of Malmesbury. It's about 65 kilometers from Cape Town. Popular place to visit for locals or Cape Townians and also tourists. And so the town started in 1829 already. It was a municipality from 1860. And the town is known for agriculture and also commercial heart of the Western Cape, but also very well known for the wheat farming and wine and livestock. So it's also the wine that's quite a big attraction for tourists. And so it is the Swartland Winery that is quite well known known in that area of Malmesbury. So it's known because there's a cool breeze blowing from the coastal cool breeze blowing from the Atlantic Ocean, and that blows into the vines in the Malmesbury area. And so for 70 years they've been making great wines. Actually for 78 years they've been making great wines. So it's a diverse selection of wines. It is red wine, white wine, and also sparkling wine and fortified wine. And they're famous for their dryland old bush vine, and also they specialize in red wines like the Syrah and the Shiraz, also Pinotage, and then great Cape Blend red wine as well, and white wines, Chenin Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc as well. In the area of Malmesbury, also great accommodation. You can travel a little bit to Riebeek Valley Hotel. It's in Riebeek Kasteel, not far from Malmesbury. It's about 15 minutes from Cape Town. It's a country retreat style hotel. And when you're close there, there's great places to hike as well. It's hiking trails and different rooms available there at the hotel. And so it's a great drive out from Malmesbury to Riebeek Kasteel or Riebeek Wes as well. Also at Malmesbury, to close off our entertainment, when you play golf, you can also go to the Malmesbury Golf Course. They've got a great 18-hole golf course there, and it's very popular as well for tourists and also for Cape Townians. So that is entertainment news in South Africa.
All right, it's now time for us to start wrapping up the show on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. As always, Africa Good Morning will be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. But remember, once you go to oneup2.com and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA, you can watch any of our episodes at your own time. We are, however, going to leave you with highlights from the WAFCON blockbuster, which included the amazing goal by Boldawa of Cameroon as they faced off against Mali. Cheers.
And we are away here. It's floated in there. It's a dangerous position. Really good header on it. Ball played forwards again. Maybe a bit more of an opportunity here. Played into space. Can she get it down? Really nice run. It's 1-0. Well, it dribbled its way there. Didn't know if it was going to go in, but the goal is number 11, Marija Selmanga. And Cameroon have their breakthrough. Here we go. Goal. 1-0 after a lengthy wait. Takes nerves to put away a penalty like that with that type of confidence. And Traoré scores and hits the Sioux. No long throw this time, but ball's played in at the second time of asking. Nice little nod on that. Great ball into the back post. Goes in between the legs, here it comes, pops out again, goes into the side. Great ball from Enjoyer. Abam goes for goal. Potentially the pass might have been on. Slotted home. Goalkeeper went the right way. No mistake about it. 2-1 Cameroon. Manga's second. We drive towards goal. It's come loose. Huge chance. Oh, that was a super chance. And that is the final whistle.